Hey guys, I have been doing a lot of fall prepping, harvesting, processing, all of those things on the wood stove. I have a broken natural harvest dehydrator. They used to be really good, but now they kind of, they don't stay good for more than a few months. So I didn't really want to spend like $200 on a dehydrator that was going to peter out on me and also cost me electricity. So instead, well, this too. This is just a shelving rack that we hung from the ceiling. And I put down paper towel and then I put my peaches on top of it. And they dried nicely. And then I had this one. See how nice they are. This one started out here on this rack. And then I don't remember why I moved it. But I did. I moved it over here. The other thing is that I have the peels here, and I'm going to let those finish dehydrating, and then I'm going to save them to mix into my goat feed in the winter. Now, the way that I do this is, it's not cheating, it's just cool. This is the little fan that when the stove is going, it blows. And so all I do is I put it on the edge here, and it blows towards what needs to dry over here. And then everything up here and everything here is dried from just heat rising. This is the warming oven. Now, if I didn't open this, they wouldn't dry, but it directs heat into the warming oven. It gets about 150 degrees in there, so they dry very quickly as long as they're on some kind of porous surface. But the main thing that I wanted to talk about today was how to use your pressure canner as a hot pack canner, or like as a water bath canner. Most acidic foods and really super sweet foods, they can be done in a hot water bath instead of a pressure system. The only thing you need is it doesn't even have to be huge. It just has to be deep enough that when your jars go in, you'll have an inch of water over the top of jars. You need 1 inch of boiling water above the jar lids. So your pressure canner works perfectly for that. Now what I do, oh, it's so heavy. This is a lid that just is for my largest soup pot that I use, or it's my stock pot for whenever I'm canning. The lids fit. The thing you need to be careful about is when you're putting it on and removing it, you need to be really careful that it doesn't nick or chip the inside of your pressure canner. My pressure canner doesn't have a regular seal, it has a metal seal. The lid and this seal together perfectly. There isn't, as far as I understand, it doesn't have a conventional gasket. Now this is the trick. If you don't have this, you cannot use any pot. You need this. What it does is it holds, hey honey, it holds the jars off the bottom of the pot so that they're not burning. Also, so that they're not being pushed around by the air bubbles from the boiling so that they clink together and break. But for the most part, all it is it's just this little space that holds the jars off the bottom of the pot. And it depends on your canner. You really don't want nicks in it. So I'm very, very careful with this. And read the instructions very carefully, even just to find out, hey, make sure not to chip the inside rim or the outside rim, any part of the rim of your pressure canner. So these are the jams that I did yesterday. This is enough peach jam to do us for the rest of the year, so I don't need to make any more peach jam. What I have left to process, this isn't all of our plums, this is only a few of our plums. I have plums to dehydrate, and I have green tomato pie filling to make, and then I have one more basket of peaches to do. We have one peach tree, and it's a white poly that does really well in cold environments. And when it started producing was when I cut it back and almost like cut it to the nubs. I cut back all the big significant branches because I was just going to cut the tree down. And then I didn't get around to it, and the next year it was loaded with fruit. It's a tiny tree, but I had enough peaches to send 2 boxes to our past renters. I sent 1 box with our current renter. I sent a box to my mom. I gave a box to my neighbor across the street, and I still had 6 boxes to use myself. So we've done a lot of dehydrating. We've done a lot of canning. but most of it I froze. This is kind of a rambling video, isn't it? Okay, so back to the canner. So you cannot do open kettle canning. The temperatures do not get hot enough. The heat inside increases by putting a lid on. Without the lid being on, the air temperature comes in, and the air temperature is cold. So it cools the jars down. They don't get to the right temperature. You have to put a lid on so that the air and the steam inside is hot. Have to do that. So for us, it's a 10-minute process. Once it starts to boil, it has to be boiling the whole time. And again, the water has to be at least an inch over the top of those jars. Now with pressure canning, you do not have water over the top of the jars because it's pressurized. The heat is uniform through the whole thing, and it is actually hotter than it would be if you just had a conventional lid on and you did have boiling water over the top of the jars. So you only need an inch in the bottom of a pressure canner. So if you're pressure canning, you don't fill it up and then cover the jars. Just 1 inch on the bottom. It just has to have enough water in it to be able to pressurize. So this was, I think, I don't know, it might not be the first time that I've tried to do canning on the wood stove, but I was really happy with how it worked this time. The trick is, don't create a bonfire in your wood box, in your firebox. Do not create a bonfire. Get a normal fire going, get a good bed of coals, and then add 1 log as you need to. Make sure it's really dry, as you need to. And what you do is, at least for me, is when I need to bring it up to temperature, I open this in the bottom that allows the air to circulate and pull faster, so you have a little bit of wood and a very brisk amount of oxygen that's really charging that fire up. And so I had this pot sitting on the stove for about 45 minutes. It took 45 minutes to come to a boil. I put hot water in it Kai put hot water in it when we started to heat it up. Don't go from cold water to boiling. It'll take forever. Go from hot water to boiling if you can. So this was not here. It was here on the corner, which is the hottest part of the stove. And when it came to a boil, I took my hot little jars and I packed them in so that they were nice and snug. And there was an inch, maybe an inch and a half of water on the top of them. I put my lid on. It was boiling aggressively when I put the lid on. And then I watched after I had put them in to make sure that it came back to a boil, because you don't start your time until it comes back to a boil. So it was a 10-minute process for half pints. And that was the first batch. In the middle of that batch, I had to pull the pot into the middle of the stove away from that heat a little bit because it was starting to jiggle a little bit. The boil had become so brisk. So the second batch, I started here, and it was a nice boil when I put it in, but even though the jars were hot, they cooled the water down enough when I put them in that it stopped boiling. And then I had watched it, but I hadn't really noticed how heavy the boil was when I put the lid on. And then I came back after the 10 minutes, I looked in, and it still hadn't started boiling again. So I had to start the time over. I pushed this back over here till it was boiling, turned the timer on, and did another 10 minutes. So the last batch had a 20-minute timer because I didn't make sure that it was boiling again. So that's how I processed it. I'm really happy with it. And you, again, you don't need a specialized pot. The blue pots, the nice thing about the blue pots that are the hot water bath pots is that they have a line on them that shows where to put the water so that it's at the right level when you put your jars in. It just has a line. The other thing is it has a basket on the inside that you can just lift the whole basket out and hook it on the sides when you pull your jars out. So all the jars lift out at the same time, and then you just pluck them from there. But as far as space goes, my kitchen is not very space friendly. I don't really have a lot of space to store a hot pack canner and a pressure canner. I prefer just to use the one tool, have it be simple, have it be a little slim, because, pardon me, canning takes a lot of stuff, and it's hard in the off season to feel like it's worth the space because you're collecting all these jars that are now empty. you've got the canners, you've got all the little tools that go with it. Sorry. I haven't eaten breakfast yet. Apparently my stomach is a little upset. Let's see, what else is there? My favorite book is the ball canning book. And they actually had a really cool recipe in there about how to use zucchini to make pineapple preserves, which I think I'm going to go... Our zucchini is almost played out, but I would really like to try this out, so we'll see what happens. We got 6 more ducks last night for free off of Craigslist. We have all but 2 does and 2 bucks butchered, so that means that as soon as we have really nice cold weather so that we can use the smokehouse, I'm going to start processing ducks, and we're going to get them in the smokehouse hanging, waiting to be able to be smoked. And I'm contemplating getting a pig because I like to raise pigs in cold weather. It just works really well for me. Anyway, hopefully that was helpful. Sorry if it was a little bit back and forth and backwards. I'm really excited with how this turned out. I'm really excited how this worked. I would recommend using paper towels instead of just screening if you're going to be having juicy things above your stove. You know, obviously make sure it's not touching anything, it's not going to catch fire. But the little tiny bit of juice that was on those peaches would have dripped down onto my stove and onto my floor. The other option was I could have put cookie sheets under them, but then the air wouldn't have flowed through them and they wouldn't have dried as quickly. I actually had to turn some of my peaches because I put them on a cookie sheet to begin with. So hopefully that's helpful. I'll try to keep you updated on everything else. And it's just so much easier for me to take these videos on my phone rather than my big camera and show you all the details. I have tons of footage. Well, I wonder if I can go add it. I may try to go back and add some of this to this video and give it a good edit and see how that goes so you can see some of the stuff we're doing. But then I feel like I'm kind of rambling in this video and didn't really have a direction. So I guess maybe we won't. We'll see. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. It's good to see ya. It's been really nice to have the wood stove going, and I still can't wait to see how the new rocket mass heater does in here, down in the basement. And I still have apples to do. I have a mountain of apples out in the garage, and we have a free potato pick here in a bit that if I'm going to keep pigs, I really need to go get as many boxes as I possibly can to help feed the pig for the winter. Oh, and I also found GMO-free food. Oh my gosh, I found all the coolest stuff that I really need to talk to you about. And I keep forgetting to do it. And I need to go get the greenhouse put together. Oh my gosh, this time of year, I need to make a commitment to my sanity to stop and make a list of everything that I've already got finished so that I don't just feel like there's this huge mountain of stuff that still needs to be done that I never get done. Anyway, I love you guys. Make sure to go check out our Etsy store if you want spinning and recipes and stuff like that. It's Dirtpatcheaven on Etsy. And we'll talk to you later.